This week we have Leo and JB from Mythic Games in, talking about Steamwatchers and their other Kickstarters. And we're giving away, from Wargames exclusive, 2 beautiful, big, orc, bulky models, the Skybasta and the Boombasta. Remember, if you want to be in with a chance of winning those, all you have to do is just post a comment, hit like, subscribe, and please, if you can, give us a share. It helps us get past that whole awful YouTube algorithm. And finally, before we get stuck into it, you can still go and download the 3D models for the Necrosia Tomb Pillar and for Gore the Barbarian. Right, weekend starts now. Welcome to the Weekender, folks. Right, to kick off, this week we have been running content about a brand new game that's come to Kickstarter called Stormsunder. Best described as a kind of like an RPG choose-your-own-adventure board game.
Yes.
I've been watching these guys play it, and I'll get to my favorite part. There's a dry humor in this that I absolutely adore. I love it. The writing in it is really, really good. But how does it play as a game?
Well, we jumped in around, I think, level 3, level 4 characters. So obviously when you're playing, you start off at a lower level because it very much plays like the sort of Knights of the Republic or Neverwinter Nights computer RPGs.
Yeah.
It plays like one of those on the tabletop. So you've got a lot of customization of your characters, even though the characters themselves are integral to the plot and they're specific. You can still get in there and go, okay, well, I've got this item upgrade, I've got that item upgrade, then you've also got an ability deck. So the actual mechanics of the skirmish, the fighting itself is really interesting. The board game itself really comes alive. It plays very well just as a skirmish board game, just a fantasy dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like the board game is tacked on to the choose your own adventure, but neither does the story writing actually feel like it's tacked on to the board game either. They both feel fully formed, fully rounded.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in both parts. Even just in we got a demo, essentially a demo campaign book, and it's only 30 pages long, but how you get from point A to point B and fight your first encounter can be wildly different depending on the party you take, the choices you make, the rules you make as a group. You can end up in one of about 5 different scenarios just in that little opening. Here's your glimpse of the campaign.
So there's potentially a ton of replayability in this as well.
Very much so. Yeah. For me, I personally really enjoyed the enemy AI that's built into it. The game really feels like it's trying to kill you. So you build a deck which is basically loaded out with specific targets that the enemies will start to go after. But depending on who's in your party and what the scenario is, you will build that deck completely differently. So it might turn out that your priest is a more major target, so there'll be more of her card in there. So it's more likely that she's just going to get attacked and attacked and attacked. And you have to work your tactics around that, which is a lot of fun.
I was looking at the components, and the components in the miniatures are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and we're just looking at the prototypes.
We're looking at the prototype. So I know Robert was saying in one of the interviews that they still haven't decided who is going to actually produce the final copy yet.
Yes.
But they're trying to get the best balance because there's a massive amount of detail in these figures.
Yes.
So the prototypes are absolutely gorgeous, and they really are just beautiful character models. So hopefully whoever they find manages to translate most of that across, but it's a very distinct look to them. I know they've got bat armor, which you adore.
Bat armor.
But there's a reason for it, and the reason is that it was a human city that was taken over by vampires years ago, and they have literally gone in and gone, yeah, this is all of ours now, and we're going to let everybody know that this is ours. There's no mistaking when you walk into Tar Pit who's in control. So they've started to garishly decorate everything, and their guards are fitted out in armor that gives them a really I would say like an 80s classic vampire kind of look to them, and they're, you know, super cheesy but quite mean and nasty at the same time.
Yeah.
So every component that I've seen from the prototype has just been superbly well done. The artwork throughout it is just stunning.
the
And
artwork is beautiful.
every card, every ability, every page of the book is just lavishly illustrated. It's stunning.
And then the demo kit that we had actually had some of the elements that I know you personally love, Warren, which is the 2.5D stuff. So between pillars, levers, weapon racks, chests.
Yeah. Well, guys, head on over to OnTableTop.com. We have Let's Plays, we've got some background interviews, we have game mechanics interviews, we have a ton of stuff there. So if you will have a link in the show notes as well, but if you're interested in learning more about Stormsunder while it is on Kickstarter, we have a full suite of content there that you can watch to get completely up to speed with it.
And remember, the game's fun because it's trying to kill you.
Yes, the game is truly trying to kill you.
I like games that do that, though. I don't want to just rock in as if I'm playing easy mode.
No, of course, Justin.
We should be playing.
You want your games to alpha strike just like you. So-
What is wrong with wanting that? You love Pandemic.
We should
and
be
it's a game that
playing
really tries to
Pandemic.
murder you.
Right now is what we should be doing.
Yeah. Right. It's time, guys. It's time. This is it. Somebody's going to get famous. We've got Indie of the Week. Ben, did you pick our Indie of the Week this week?
Yeah, so I went on and sort of I've been on a little bit of a Warhammer Fantasy old world style trip over the last couple of weeks. Really wanting to dive in and, you know, build up an old army and use the old books and that kind of thing. And one of the companies that's out there that really drags my attention pretty much every time they show off any kind of preview or release or anything is a company called MOMminiaturas, which is named after the guy who designs all the miniatures, called Manuel Almeida Marquez. I got it right. I didn't
Well
screw it
done.
up.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And basically, he sculpts a load of absolutely stunning fantasy and sci-fi figures that you can use if you love that kind of old world grimdark aesthetic, or for example, if you're playing something like the Ninth Age. His web store is absolutely packed with a whole bunch of awesome looking miniatures. He covers the likes of dwarves, elves, humans, sort of like chaos style creatures, chaos warriors, wizards, and he's even done a whole bunch of terrain as well. And I believe we've actually got a couple of different links that we can sort of flick through and have a look at the kind of suite of options that he has available to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you like Warhammer, this is a guide to go and look at for some alternative sculpts.
I'll admit, I'm not a massive fan of Warhammer, but I am a huge fan of fantasy armies. And these look beautiful.
Yeah.
They look absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I love the designs on some of the dwarves, especially the runic guardians. Just look absolutely awesome.
They're currently out of stock because pretty much every Kings of War dwarf army who runs Earth Elementals use those as specifically dwarven Earth Elementals.
Are these the biggest pictures we can get, or can we go into these?
I can probably click into these.
Yeah, you should be able to click in and see each of them in a little bit more detail. One of the things that I really like about what he does with the sculpting for these models is that he's taken a really awesome style and design from looking at sort of old artwork and the kind of old ranges that Games Workshop used to do, and he's added his own sort of interpretation to it as well.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of the comic in there. There's a little bit of the sort slightly more serious and grim dark in there too. But everything's been done so that it would fit in with a lot of the stuff that is produced by Games Workshop for the older ranges, and also a lot of the companies that work alongside the Ninth Age to do stuff for those rulebooks as well. So there's a really nice sort of way that the aesthetics have been melded together with this range as a whole.
Yeah. Go back, Justin, because there's another one that I would really love you to click into there
Is
for
this
me.
in the dwarves? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I've got them here.
Yeah, so the Dwarf Warriors down there.
So down here, I got you.
I want those, Gerry, but I want to fit them out with spears, 9-foot spears.
Yes.
And that are my hoplites. That is the beginnings of Thermopylae right there.
It's a great way of doing bulwarkers, yeah.
Yeah. So if
this is to go with the current dwarven army.
well, no, I'm thinking of a little separate. So my hobby kind of takes a couple of different tracks at the moment, right? I love my agnostic dwarven armies, or sorry, my agnostic fantasy armies. I don't talk about generic, because there's nothing generic about people's armies. Everybody's armies are wonderful in some way. but I like building armies that are game rules agnostic. So I'm just building beautiful fantasy armies, okay? My other track is kind of like one-off cool games, okay? And I'm going on about Crusades at the moment because it is my thing.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, I've wanted to do the Battle of Thermopylae, okay? Spartans versus Persians. But the more I think about it, you could take a fantasy take on Thermopylae, okay? So my Spartans would be dwarves. Like, look at that there as a phalanx with the shield wall. Now, if they were, instead of rocking axes, were rocking spears,
thrusting spears,
that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And then, do they have anything like dark elves in this range?
Well, let me have a look. I know they have an elf range.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So here's the elves they have.
Uh-huh.
So which would you prefer?
Well, they're all out of stock, so well done. But I was thinking, it's the dwarves would work well as the Spartans. I think you could get a really cool Spartan.
It's a hard conversion though, because their hands are like this for their axes, and then you're looking at more like that if you want to try and get it come out
You want it
forward.
come out
Otherwise,
on an angle.
it's not so hard if you just want it. Looks like they're marching in with all their.
Well, you could just chop the top of the axes and just replace it with spears.
Well,
it's
you would
very
chop
easy
the
to
top
change.
and chop the bottom, and then if these
Drill
metal,
through.
No, they're resin.
You'd still do that, and then if their hand's big enough, drill through and then drop a brass spear through.
Yes, well, it would have to be proper metal brass spears, so as we get stabbed every time we use
that goes
them.
outside.
I have a question. Are you sure you want to do dwarves? Because the orcs are pretty nice as well.
No, I definitely want to do dwarves.
Okay.
Because the Spartans are the goodies in my mind.
Yeah.
And the Persians are the baddies in my
Okay.
mind. Okay, so for the Persians, obviously, if I want to go with a fantasy trope on this, I had been thinking. Now, I've been influenced quite heavily by 300 in this. Because of the Persians, they have the immortals and stuff like this. And even in my own my own stuff where I'm looking at the Saracens and stuff, they are that side of the world does seem to me to be more
What, Fey and exotic?
fleet of foot, more more light infantry that can move faster, can do things.
The old GW High Elf range was based on Persians.
Was it?
Yeah, that's.
But then
why they
that's
had
maybe
things like
why
that.
elves are kind of clicking for me. But I wouldn't use my high elf army. I would really like to explore something like the dark elves and get some of them war beasts in there, like rhinos, big war rhinos and war elephants and the likes. Yeah. I think
You could look at the Lord of the Rings range from Games Workshop as well,
That could work.
because they have who are the guys that are a bit Saracen-like.
the Harridan.
But you'd have to accept a smaller scale.
Yeah,
Or not,
the elves
the
would be.
smaller proportions, sorry, not rather than scale.
Oh
but-
no, it would be both because I think they're 25 mil.
The interesting thing about it, though, is to take a historical battle such as that, once you take it into fantasy. Now, fantasy doesn't necessarily mean magic. Now, this is something we talk a lot about from time to time on the XLBS show for the Cult of Games members. Magic is one of those things that can almost make or break a game.
Yeah.
And these days I'm a little less inclined to chuck magic in to a game, because I think I find magic has the potential to be very uninteresting if it's not executed. I would rather have a magic system that adds something interesting to the game than the magic system that is just effectively giving you a different way to do pew de pew.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure in a fantasy game whether I would even include magic in this. I'd be more inclined to include magical beasts and
the fact you've got
the
the
end
races.
results of it. Yeah.
Does that include magical weapons, though?
I don't think you need magical weapons. I think if your magic is creating elephants that have an intelligence, or the mammoths, and you're conjuring that kind of thing, I think that will make it magical enough and fantasy enough without necessarily having to have a layer of magic spells in there.
And for something like Thermopylae, where you want to have a force standing back, being fireballed off the table probably wouldn't work anyway.
Yes.
Although, here's something for you, Warren. So if you want to do Thermopylae with the dwarves, have a look at the dwarf statue.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is right up your alley here.
Look at the size of that.
Yeah, let me open it up here. So there is your little dude beside it. And
it's one of the things they've been doing a little bit more over the last couple of months. So they've been designing a whole bunch of new scenery elements and that kind of thing, especially for like the idea of building like the interior of a dwarf hold. So they've got things like the column sections and that stuff as well. So that basically it seems like they really, really like dwarves above everything else, which is probably one of the other reasons why I picked them. But
yeah. Well, if I was designing Thermopylae, okay, 6x4, okay. Let's do it this way. So that is a pathway along your edge of the table, which comes around into the pass.
Yep.
And I would, so here I would have almost like cliff face here, cliff face here. This is the pass. I'd embed those statues almost into the cliff face, like they've been cut out of the cliff face.
that'd be cool.
And then back there, I would have the secret path. Okay, and the Persian player, okay, would be rolling to see if they've discovered the secret pass.
See, I wouldn't bring your cliff all the way back. I would swing it back around so you had some space here to build like a Persian encampment.
Maybe. The thing is, it is very much a one-off game, Thermopylae, because it's thump, 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 thump. So you need to find some game mechanics there that will make that more interesting.
Absolutely, because just playing it as is pretty boring.
It will be pretty boring.
What are your dwarves doing? Standing here?
Standing in a field.
What are you doing this turn? Standing here?
From what I can gather, actually, the Spartans. Now, remember the other thing is we talk about 300. Yes, there may well have been 300 Spartans there, but I think there was like 5,000 other troops there. But Leonidas and his 300 apparently were built almost kind of like a wall.
Yeah,
and they were standing on top of the wall, stabbing down. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, the reason the hot gates existed was there were hot springs there, so it was essentially like a Greek spa. So like Bath in England for the Romans, and they went there, and there was a wall that they rebuilt that they defended. So it came out from the cliff, and then there was obviously the pass, and then more cliff falling off towards the sea. So they only had a very narrow part to actually defend. Compared to how it looks nowadays, where the sea's receded and it looks like a sort of a massive plain. Not so much.
Yeah. I have a wargaming conundrum for you if you're interested.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll put this one out to you guys at the community, right? The phalanx.
Yes.
Okay, so the phalanx is where the hoplites lined up, shields, spears. Okay. The phalanx was, say it was 10 people by 10 people. Okay. It turns out that a little bit later in Greek warfare, one of the Greek generals redesigned the phalanx to make it 25 deep or 50 deep. And apparently this variation of the phalanx was utterly supreme and managed to completely overpower the old style phalanx. The wargaming conundrum is this, is that in wargaming, we're always trying to model what a unit is in terms of the game mechanics. Why would this unit be more effective and more powerful than that unit? If you take into account that really only the first couple of rows of a phalanx are actually doing any of the damage, what is it that you could model into a wargame that might explain why a 25 deep phalanx is more effective than a 10 deep phalanx? When all things else are equal, it's equal in terms of its front facing. They're using equal weapons. Everything else is equal. The only difference is one is much, much deeper than the other.
weighted numbers. Warhammer
Do you
used to
think
do
it
it
is?
with ranks. So if somebody had double the number of ranks that you did, you got a bigger combat resolution, so you were more likely to win the combat. Simply because you'll just push through.
Or perhaps we can keep the combat the same, but have it after every round of combat, because it's a heavier number, you pushing them out of out of line. You're pushing it deeper into
to
them.
take you into real life then. I still can't get my head around why 25 deep would be.
Because it can push harder.
You can push harder.
You reckon that's what it
That's
is?
it,
You
you're
reckon it's
overpowering.
the-
Like
it's
if
the
you've got a
push.
wall of men pushing you this way, right, you're going to lose your balance and not effectively be fighting anymore because you're on the back foot, literally.
Yeah.
It's like two
I know
rugby
there's a way to
scrums.
numbers, but sometimes there's the law of diminishing results. You know, like it does.
Returns, you mean?
Or the law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
You know, does 25 really give you much more than 10? You know, whenever you take into account like the pushing, I don't know.
Well,
but
we
it's
can
over
try
to you
this at
guys.
the next game night.
Yes, let's get 25 people together. And we'll all shove.
We'll create one-man phalanxes, but 25 deep.
Yeah.
And we'll push at each other and see what happens.
Were the guys on the end just like super polite and just didn't try to envelop the other unit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, politeness.
Because
If you spread
if
yourself,
you start wrapping around, then
they'll cut through the middle
they'll
of
cut
you.
through the middle.
But if you have so many people behind you, could you not just have people starting to leak out around the side to try and get onto the flanks?
Yeah, but in many ways you're also then making what you're cutting around as effective, because then you have two lines at the front. But remember, you also they only have to turn around. And you start to get two lines at the side. You would need to make damn sure that you have as much numbers going around as you would have at the front.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a risky game. I get the impression that the way phalanxes worked is that the guys were at the front battling, and then they found some way to kind of drift back through, and then fresher guys came up.
Yeah,
I would
push them
love to
forward.
see it in action, but we don't get to see a lot of reenactments. You get to see the Viking reenactments, but Viking reenactments tend to be two men deep, shield wall,
wall, yeah.
pushing. But I would love to see a reenactment of a proper phalanx to see how it was actually managed.
Well, I
and
know
how it was
just the
done.
man to ask, because we've got Big Ben from Foreground used to do that kind of reenacting.
He does, because there's a documentary. And in that documentary, you guys probably only seen a wee bit of it when I found him in a documentary. They do have Greek phalanx guys and stuff.
Yeah.
But you didn't see much in the documentary of them fighting in a phalanx.
And then actually, Cad was in that documentary as well.
Well,
See?
if you guys know of any cool footage of an actual phalanx in action, I'd love to see that. And back to the point of that whole thing, Indie of the Week, go and check out MOMminiaturas.com.
Very cool.
Right. We're doing a thing. We have a thing where basically, if you need help, if you need something done, if you need advice, we have the world's ultimate agony aunt sitting right there. Because if you don't know how to do it, I know if anyone can. Gerry Can.
Hi Cogs, I'm back again with a tutorial on Blue Stuff from Green Stuff World. Blue Stuff is a thermoset plastic which can be used for making press molds. So sometimes if you don't want to do a silicon mold for something because you only need one or two of them, it's better to use something like this if they don't have to be high detailed. The press molds are good because when you're finished with them, all you have to do is put it into some hot water for 2 to 3 minutes and it starts to reform again, and so it can be used multiple times for multiple things. So in the case of press molds, you can use it to do things like details of pieces that you already have, or maybe you want to replicate something like just the icon of the shield onto another miniature, or you can use it for basing. So once you have your Blue Stuff thoroughly set, all you have to do is get in, find your piece of detail that you want and just press it down, really get it wedged in there, and then just leave it for it to cool. You can speed up cooling by putting it into cold water if you need to do it quickly. You can even make 2-part molds of this. So for example, if you wanted to have something like a sword and you wanted to cast it in 2 pieces, that's doable as well. In which case, if I get out some of my blue stuff here, all you need to do is get your 2 chunks. Let's say this is going to be our base piece. You would then press whatever you need to do halfway. Make sure the detail is up to speed on it, and then use something to key the mold. So you could use the back of a brush or a file or a sculpting tool, that sort of thing. So when your second piece of blue stuff goes on top, it has these registration marks to make sure that it will line up every time. Now, ideally what you want to do is wait for this one to cool. I don't actually need a 2-part mold of this, so I'm just going to show you. But you would press the second piece over the top, including the registration. And then once that cools down, you have 2 sections, 2 halves that you can put together to make a 2-part mold. It's as simple as that. If I gently peel off this one, which has been cooling for a couple of seconds, you'll see we have the detail of that sort of cross mark and the shield in there. Now, when you've got that detail, you can pick up a epoxy putty. So I've got a bit of green stuff here I've already mixed up, and use that in your press mold. This one's going to be a little bit too soft, but I have a couple I used earlier, and these I pressed onto just a bit of scrap greaseproof paper. So it means that as they set, I don't have to worry about whatever epoxy I'm using sticking to the desk, because that's always a bad thing. So I've done 2 here. This one, if I pop it out, it's been curing for a couple of hours. Will give me some boards, which have actually been copied off that. And this piece here, if I free it, gives me a little Adeptus Mechanicus sort of hatch cover. Now, once you've got your press mold, let's use this one again. You want to make sure that your epoxy doesn't come away or stick to the mold itself. So in this case, I'm going to use a bit of Vaseline. You don't need a huge amount of this, but you do need to make sure that you coat the entire inside so that any of the details, especially things like the undercut, have got a good coating of that Vaseline to stop it adhering to it. And then you take your green stuff, which I'm going to heat up in my hands, and just press that down in. At that point, you get your paper and press it on top. And don't be afraid to squeeze it in. You can always cut away the excess. With a 2-part mold, you probably want to put in excess and then really compress it with maybe a heavy book or a clamp on top of it. And then just set that to one side for a couple of hours to dry out. And you can get these little sort of features that you can then add on top of other bases if you want. So for example, I could trim this down now and add it to this desert base, or I could add it to a model. And that's just a handy way of making press molds out of blue stuff. So let us know what you think down below, and we'll move on.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Yeah, we're back for the news. Before we get to the news, if you want to see anything on Gerry Can, please write us a letter. Write us a letter, because whatever it is you want to see happen, if anyone can, Gerry can. So it
saves me thinking.
Yes, and if you want to look, we have a load of Gerry Cans. The Gerry Cans are part of our content that goes out pretty much every week for the Cult of Games members. So if you haven't had enough Gerry, just come on over, join the cult. You'll be very welcome in the cult. Join the cult, and you can get a feast of Gerry Can.
Is this a new symbol?
Well, I'm working on all sorts of different symbols. I can't do the one that.
Well, I haven't worked out the secret handshake yet. We're working on it. Along with some sound effects.
Oh, I hit that noise.
Yeah, so come on over, join the Cult of Games. It has an actual side benefit, you know, as well as coming over and you get a whole pile of Gerry. We do special offers on the store on there. You have XLBS, which is my favorite time of the week. It's where we get to sit down and relax with the cult members, and we're talking deeper about a lot of hobby and stuff like that. It's some cool stuff.
Yeah, this week we still have some 3D files up that you can grab for free.
But the side benefit of it all is for the cost of one cup of coffee, you keep us here.
Didn't it used to be a cup of coffee and a muffin?
Yeah.
Inflation sucks.
Inflation sucks. A cup of coffee now costs more than a Cult of Games membership.
Serious?
Yeah, so see it this way. If you enjoy this show for an hour or so a week, right? If you joined the Cult of Games, right? A cup of coffee will last you like 15 minutes, okay? And you'll get maybe 15, 20 minutes worth of enjoyment out of it. If you gave up one cup of coffee to help us out, you keep this here for everybody else, and then everybody else can feel the benefit of you providing that benefit. I think that's how it works. But as well as that, you get access to a whole lot of other stuff, and you get those good feels.
Exactly. Your coffee will make you warm inside.
Yes.
But if you help us, we can make everybody feel warm inside.
Yes. And you want us inside. You really do. So
you also get access to the Cult of Games Discord.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Discord. We have the Cult of Games Discord. So if you're wondering, because I believe we did have a post, one of the comments saying, what is this Cult of Games thing that you keep mentioning? So the Cult of Games is the inner circle of OnTableTop. It's somewhere where we can let our hair down and not be worried about all these flipping YouTube algorithms and everything else. So we have a secret Cult of Games Discord. Where loads of the Cult of Game members are in there.
Yeah.
We have loads of activities that we do. Like every week, we have code breakers.
So let your hair down. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Well, other than Justin, the rest of us let our hair down. Justin gets a wee polish.
I let my stubble down.
So it's we just have loads of activities, loads of challenges, loads of fun, and most importantly of all, is the support that the cogs give to one another and give to us. You know, this wouldn't be possible without Cult of Games members. We need you guys to be there to support something like this, because these things just can't finance themselves. You just can't do this stuff. The world has changed dramatically, and we have to realize that we just rely on you guys to be patrons, to be the people there that are holding the whole thing up. And you know, the personal support that we get from Cult of Games members, you know, just being there for us. You know, I would come in, I get to do a bit of time on a Sunday morning, and my first port of call is straight onto the Discord, you know, and I'll post a few pictures and have a laugh with the folks on there. And you know, if we all go through moments where we're not at our best, and the Discord is a great place to get that little bit of support, that little bit of a come on, dude, you'll push on through, you'll be there. So it is a fabulous community, and if it ever went away, I would miss it. I would miss it deeply. I would absolutely. It would break my heart. Yep. So don't let me break my heart. Join the Cult of Games. The more members we have, the healthier the whole thing
make us
can
all
be.
warm inside.
£3 and change per month, guys, and we suck you into our inner circle, and you get us inside you.
There is another benefit that we forgot to mention.
Is there?
Another benefit, Justin?
Cult of Games members get first bite at the cherry for any of the events that we run here at OTTHQ.
Dude, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Don't worry about that bit. We'll mention that when the world
2021.
When the world gets healthy again, we'll mention about all of that there. But yeah.
That's why our next event is the big pandemic game.
Yes, we're going. Yeah. Right. We've kept this man waiting long enough.
Yeah.
Ben, it's time to unleash your news upon us. We are here to be served by the sexy Furious.
So the first bit of news that we're going to be looking at this week is actually something that's not relatively based around tabletop or miniatures or anything like that. It's actually tabletop adjacent, I guess you'd say. And that is that the guys behind Lucasfilms and Star Wars are looking towards bringing together a new collection of books and comics and audiobooks and things like that in a new sort of era of the Star Wars universe called the High Republic. Now, this is set 200 years before the Phantom Menace, and it will follow the exploits of the Jedi when they're basically at the height of their power, alongside the Republic, and there's almost a sense of peace throughout the galaxy. However, on the fringes of it, as there normally tends to be with the Republic and Star Wars, there are nefarious things going on. It's a little bit like the Wild West out there. And so the Jedi, rather than just being these sort of like noble, peaceful knights that you tend to know them as well, they are heading out there a little bit like Border Patrol, like Rangers, like they sort of refer to them as the Texas Rangers of the Galactic Republic, heading out there to try and stop all these dangerous space pirates and outlaws and things like that. And so you're going to have the Jedi and the Republic and all the sort of peaceful stuff going on in the center, and on the outer rim you're going to have the likes of the Nihil, which they refer to as like space Vikings out there trying to, stop them and all the nefarious goings on that they're getting stuck into. Apparently, as well as that kind of thing, we're also going to be looking at a little bit deeper into the Jedi themselves and what they fear most. Now, I would have assumed that would be the Sith, but it seems like there's going to be some other bits and pieces sort of weaved into the mix as well. For anyone that is sort of interested in the timeline kind of thing, this is the High Republic, which is different to the Old Republic, because I had to go and look up the dates for this, but the Old Republic is set 3,600 years before the events of like the Phantom Menace and stuff like that, whereas what we're seeing here with the High Republic is only 200 years before. So it's a little bit more up to date in terms of the sort of like overall storyline for Star Wars. But I think this sounds pretty interesting indeed. I think the artwork looks really cool. I think some of the ideas they come up with sound awesome. And the fact that we're going to be seeing a whole bunch of not just books, but also comics as well sounds really cool, awesome as well. So yeah, it's effectively them building another extended universe for the world of Star Wars that they now have on screen. So sounds very interesting indeed.
I've got something to say.
Yes.
Bunch of snobby do-gooders running around the galaxy, sticking their nose in where it's not wanted.
Nobody
It
likes
could
the
be cool,
police.
actually.
Nobody likes the police.
Is this what Ben Kenobi was referring to when he talked about this being a weapon of a more civilized age? Is this the more civilized age that he was referring to?
Probably. I think they've pitched it too close, though. By only going 200 years back, Yoda is 800
alive.
years old.
Yes.
So he's there.
But they didn't want another baby Yoda.
No, they
wanted
they probably
teenage
did.
Yoda.
But the fact that they can still connect that back to what we've got, they should have just broke it all together and
You
just
reckon go straight to the Old Republic, go 3,000 years back? Because
if they don't want to go to the Old Republic and the Sith Wars and that sort of thing, if they wanted something totally new, just go 1,000 years ago. Just go, well, Yoda definitely can't be there because he's not going to be born for another 200, so everybody's going to be fresh.
Yeah. 200 years ago, the Wookiee was born. The Wookiee's 50 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So even Chewbacca
So Chewie's
is
been
alive.
kicking around. So I think it's been pitched just a bit.
But are they
too
just
recent.
afraid to disconnect it and go, oh, well, the Star Wars fans might go, well, this isn't Star Wars because nobody exists.
No, but
I'm of the opinion that they maybe didn't even just think of it.
No,
maybe not.
Because
the Old Republic's massive.
Because when it's been rumoured now, there's been rumours going around the internet for months about where the next films and things will be set. They were talking 400 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 400 years in the past.
A few times they mentioned going back to
has
the Old
this
Republic.
actually been said? 200? Is that?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
actually stated?
Yeah, 200.
Yeah, but in this you might get references to what happened back another 200 years then if they're going back 400 for the movies.
Yeah, I agree with Gerry on this though. I think the
Lots
Star Wars universe is so vast. I'm also of the opinion I'd like
disconnect.
to see a complete break from anything that made an appearance in the Skywalker Palpatine saga.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
It'll be interesting to see where they go though, because they've essentially brought an entire art department in to map it, storyboard, and illustrate it as if they were going to be making just a film or TV. So they have a universe / world built that all of the people who are working, because they're working across all the different titles and publishing houses that are owned by the Disney Corporation overall. So you might see like a kids comic and then maybe an adult novel, but they're all going to have the same. They're all going to be able to go, well, what does this thing look like? It looks like this because
So a consistent canon.
There's consistent canon behind it.
Which is
hope-
what they need to do if they want Star Wars to take on that Marvel-esque approach going forward,
They
where
need-
stuff is mapped out and can interlink and call back to other stuff.
But they need a visionary. They need to. They need a. They don't need Lucas. They need a new Lucas. They need Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
Or Favreau.
John Favreau.
John Favreau.
Yep.
So Filoni or Favreau, they need them to take a lead and to be that nexus, that one point of contact.
Defining it.
Yeah. That keeps the entire vibe of the whole thing on track.
Is there any character in Star Wars that's really interesting enough to break off for a standalone movie? I mean, like I watched Solo and I hated it.
Yeah, there is, but we don't know them yet because we're all still focused on what we've seen over those 9 films, or 10 films,
I suppose.
or 13 films.
Well,
I want a Plo Koon.
Plo Koon.
Plo Koon.
To balance that up, I watched
cinema.
Solo and I quite like it.
Yeah.
I've watched it a couple of times now.
But you're not right. What are you saying, Ben?
You're completely.
I was going to say, actually, one of the things interesting they've been talking about with this and the High Republic is that they're going to be trying to build up a new, effectively, cast of characters that you'll know and fall in love with, and they will kind of transition between all these different mediums. So they'll be in audio, they'll be in books, they'll be in comic books. So I think they've looked at kind of like the success of things like the Clone Wars animated series and that kind of thing, and the characters they built up in that and what they were able to bring to the Star Wars universe. And I think they want to try and do that in print as well as in sort of like a digital medium at the same time. So it'll be really interesting how that all sort of like ties together. But I like the idea that we're going to have almost recognizable a core cast of characters that everyone will be like, awesome. I wonder what he's doing in this magazine, which might be set like 20 years after this story has happened or something. So it'll be cool.
Right, next up, cast your mind back. Do you remember the 90s?
What year?
So back in the 90s, we saw a revolution in PC gaming. Okay, PCs had been around most before that, but let's be honest, it was all kind of spreadsheets, and PCs weren't very good at gaming. You had Amigas, you had Ataris, you had Segas,
the Commodore 64
with their 16-bit and AGA super graphics and their parallax and everything.
Or if you were Flash, you had a Neo Geo.
Neo
Or
Geo.
the Neo Geo. But then things changed because the PC suddenly was able to do something that none of these other consoles were really capable of and struggled with. And that was 3D games. And it kicked off with Doom, if I remember.
I think Wolfenstein might have been before Doom.
I can't remember if it was, but it's Wolfenstein.
I'm pretty sure.
But it's Wolfenstein that I remember. And the first time I saw Wolfenstein on that 14-inch CRT yellow beige colored monitor,
Nice.
and running around inside a castle with the red Reich flags everywhere, shooting zombie Nazis and stuff like that there, I thought, this is clearly the most amazing thing I have ever seen in my life. And we, my brother and I, like a couple of slags, we just dumped our Amiga and we went off on a PC gaming journey that lasted for 30 years.
20
years.
No.
Yeah.
It didn't last that long because then the Xbox came along.
Oh, then the Xbox came, but it was basically a PC.
It's a
right.
PC,
So anyway, we're now at that moment finally. I've long retired from video gaming.
So you haven't played the latest Wolfenstein?
I haven't.
Oh, dude, they're so good.
Dude,
and they're
when
so pretty.
I gave up video gaming in 2008, and in 2009 we kicked off Beasts of War. Okay, because I retired from video gaming. I'd had a good run at it, but I was getting mullered by 12-year-olds left, right, and center, and I had one corpse hump too much, and I decided enough. I don't have the reaction speed anymore. I'm going to the gentleman's game of wargaming. Okay, tabletop has been my thing, and I have never went back to video gaming. But this, I'm glad to see this. Wolfenstein is coming to tabletop, courtesy of Archon. Ben, what can you tell us about it, man?
Yeah, so this is going to be a new 2 to 5 player board game by Archon. It's going to be coming to Kickstarter very, very soon indeed. You'll play as the eponymous BJ Blazkowicz, who everybody knows, alongside some of his allies, and you'll be taking on as we've already said. The Nazis, Hitler in Castle Wolfenstein, killing things with epic weapons and destroying all sorts of strange mechanical beasts and all sorts of things like that. The game is actually based on the newer versions of the game that Justin was talking about before. So you've got New Order and New Colossus. And this is set a little bit after the Second World War, where the Nazis effectively won, and they have taken over basically pretty much all of the world. And so you're playing as BJ Blazkowicz in this new society that he doesn't quite recognize, alongside all of his new allies, and some from his past as well, trying to, fight through this Nazi wave and try and topple their government and bring back America and all that kind of thing to the tabletop. So very interesting indeed. From what we know so far, as I say, it's a 2 to 5 player game. It's going to be completely co-op, so it's going to be driven by an AI sort of like deck that controls all the enemies and things like that. You can either go through a 10 mission sort of campaign, or you can play each of the different missions individually if you want as well, just if you want to have a little bit of a one-off experience. As I say, coming to Kickstarter. It's from the guys at Archon, so they're the guys that have done a whole bunch of really nice, awesome-looking sculpts for a bunch of other games, and they also work with a lot of other different companies as well to do stuff. They've done things like Starfinder and all sorts of things like that. So if you like the look of the miniatures and you like Wolfenstein, this might be a nice sort of like antidote to video games. Come to the tabletop, play this with your friends instead.
There you go.
I love that you're getting the Robo-Dog. It was such a pain in the ass to fight that thing for the first time.
Were.
And it was just like, why will you not just die? Down, Fido.
Let's see Robo-Dog.
Robo-Dog, so he's top left corner here.
Oh, he's a big brute of a thing.
Oh, yeah. The miniatures look gorgeous.
Definitely a Boston Dynamics output there.
Yeah.
Right, next up, we have some Marvel news.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy are coming to Marvel's Crisis Protocol.
I think out of all the heroes from Marvel, they're my least favorite.
Your least favorite?
Oh yeah.
Are you mad?
No, that.
But the Guardians movies are like the new Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like Star-Lord is your hero, Justin. You and Star-Lord are like
He's a herc.
You're like two peas in a pod, man.
No
He's
way.
got his 80s tape.
Yeah.
He's got a dad that looks like this.
Yeah.
You're not my father.
What's not to love?
We've got some news to break to you, Justin.
Oh, suddenly we're on Jerry Springer.
Nice.
We found your hair, your single hair, and we sent it off for DNA testing.
Was that one you pulled from your nose last week?
And apparently it does seem that Jerry did in fact break into the zoo and have his way with a...
I thought you said you liked my mum. She's a lovely little lady.
Very attractive baboon.
Oh, I hope my mum never sees this.
Remind me to touch this topic again in backstage.
Okay, right.
They call the game show.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
Bring me up some pictures, Justin. I want to see it.
Obviously, we get Star-Lord himself.
So there's Justin. Yeah.
Shut up. Further down, we're getting Rocket Raccoon. So there's Jerry.
That's not Jerry.
That's not Jerry.
Ego. Planet. That's me.
I like
What,
that.
is that Lloyd then?
I like Rabbit. He's cool. He's cool. Keep going. I want to see. There he
We have
is.
Groot looking pretty
There's
badass.
Grout. Yeah.
Oh God.
Let's
I
keep going.
think that's the Wish knockoff.
Yeah. Come on now. Come on. Ah, there we
Gamora.
are.
Really nice design.
No, whoa. Hang on a cotton picking moment here.
What's going on here?
I've never seen Gamora wearing that.
That's the comic book version.
Yes.
Ah, right.
And then
Okay.
you have Nebula, her sister.
Yeah.
And I think, yep, that's everybody for now.
Yeah.
Nebula is
Very nice.
incredible. Right. There is a Kickstarter that is about to launch that you really want to have a look at. It's Steamwatchers from Mythic Games, and we were lucky enough to have Leo and JB in the studio, and Justin got a chance to sit down and talk with them.
Hey guys, I am in the studio with Leo and JB from Mythic Games, and today we're going to be talking about Steamwatchers, the new game coming to Kickstarter from this fabulous company. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure to have you guys over, and I am super excited for this. We've been playing games off camera, and I'm in love. You guys always do this to me, and you always pass the test off. Whenever I finish the game, I want to go again. Instantly, I want to go again.
Well, that's the best compliment.
All right, so for anybody who has been living under a rock, what's the elevator pitch? What is this game?
Okay, so this is a new game. You know, at Mythic Games, we try to explore new route, go different, try different experience, and do different games all the time. So this is a type of game that we had never explored. It's a 3x or 4x, depending on how you see that, game. So it's a real board game. Conquest and strategy, area control, resource management. So these sorts of games, but with the mythic touch, I would say. And to us, that means developing the background a lot, having lots of new, nice illustrations and great looking minis as well. So this is a game with a big depth. This is a game for people who are used to this sort of game, or it's not a game that you will learn in 5 minutes. It's a game that needs a little bit of...
Well, for some of the strategic concepts, yeah, but your main mechanics, something you guys always do, which is really great, is you keep your mechanics clean. You're not going to be referring to your rulebook every 2 minutes of this game, which is really good for this style of game. I would say this is a great one for people who want to get into this style of game.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that this is how you perceived it. This is really great. I was just thinking that this game needs the mechanics are a little bit different than what you would expect sometimes, because you want to conquer or get some resources that will harm you. So this is what is a little different and unusual.
It's greed versus need, as I would call it. Because if you're too greedy, you're really going to start damaging yourself and damaging your clan.
So what do you think, JB? Do you think it's an accessible game, or, well, you're used to 3 and 4x games, so...
Yeah, that's my kind of games, but...
It's your cup of tea.
Yeah, it's my cup of tea, definitely. But I would say that, as Justin is saying, the main mechanic is pretty simple. There's a lot of options, many things you can do each turn, and it's pretty hard to anticipate what the opponent is going to do. So it's creating a bit of chaos, compensating the fact that there are no dice at all. So I really like that kind of game, because it looks like, you know, the main classics like Diplomacy, like Risk, like Game of Thrones, being inspired by Diplomacy. You've got orders, and with the orders you making tactical moves, but you never know what the opponent is going to do, because there's so many options. It's very tactical, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, like even just looking at the board. So we have Ice Aged Europa sitting in front of us.
Exactly.
So you can see most of the famous locations, kinda.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit because of the background, but we'll get there.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you've lost Ireland. Yeah. So,
all the Celts are in Brittany.
Oh, so we went home.
Yeah.
Yeah. But whenever you're laying your stuff out on the board, so each zone that we have on the table here, where I have troops here, I will be playing my tokens, and it's hidden to begin with. But even whenever those get revealed, it's still kind of iffy as to what your opponent's going to do, because I'll look there and I'll go, oh, he's going to be moving, but where is he going to move now?
Exactly.
So it's very, very fun that way. And you also have sort of a bluff mechanic, because you have some like decoy orders in there as well. So if you have like massive forces really spread out, you can make your opponent think, oh damn, he's really coming after me here, and it's just 3 decoys.
Yes, exactly.
To come back on what you were saying about how is it easy or not to get into that game, I think it's pretty easy to get into the game, but you will need time and many games to get skilled.
Yeah,
because all the skill is about what you've been saying. Are you greedy or not? Because everything goes with this alga fuel that you will need for several stages in the game. So it will take time to master the game, and which is nice, because as you said, you've been playing one game, you find it pretty easy, but you want to play again.
Yeah. But it's not even just playing a game with the same faction, because each faction is so different to each other in their play style, in even the resources. The asymmetric side that you've designed into the game is really, really good, because it makes you want to go, oh, well, if I played with the Free Fleet the first time, they were really fun, but what if I then go with the Rammstein next? Sorry, I can't resist. That's a gag you'll see.
Die Rheinfreie Stamm.
Yeah. The replayability is definitely there because you will. It's, as you said, asymmetrical factions, and every time you play with a different one, the feelings are very different. And the game is deep also in how long it will take you to master the good strategy. It's not easy and to anticipate what the others are doing, and then there's a diplomacy aspect. So yeah, and I think also because to be honest, this is not the kind of game I go spontaneously to, but I was really. I can say that because I saw the initial concept and then we developed it for 2 years, and then I saw the final concept and I played, and I really love this, and I've been playing it again and again. So even though it's not the kind of game I go to spontaneously, I really liked it. And yeah, this is something I think is worth mentioning. And it's not too long. You know, a game is not too long, because I've played some other 3x or 4x games that lasted like 7 and 7 hours.
What was the really famous one? Twilight Imperium?
Twilight Imperium.
Twilight Imperium, or even Diplomacy. Diplomacy can take 8 hours if you want to, you know?
And Twilight Imperium, I mean, even the last edition that they published, they streamlined it to 6 or 7 hours, something like that.
That's streamlined.
You still need a weekend for that.
Now, one of the other key concepts of this game that I dearly love is the evolution of the tactics during the gameplay on the board. Because at the beginning of every round, so you see all the little blue pips here. These are your steam vents, and every round more of these appear in random locations on the board. So you might be making a massive push towards the east, but all of a sudden, down behind you here on this one little island that used to be Spain, you'll have maybe 1 or 2 pop up here, and it's just like, I need to kind of go and get those because no one else can get that.
There's a lot of movement in this game. You can't just develop on your side and not move. It's simply impossible. No. And there will be new resources appearing everywhere, so people will move. You will have to fight. There's always something happening. Every turn till the end.
It's area control, but there's a lot of interactions each turn. You cannot avoid that. So.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the idea that we're in an ice age and transportation in an ice age is not so easy. So the way we have the ice locked seas here that are being controlled by another faction who you don't play, who you have to deal with to actually unlock these areas to move through. Because if I can move from down here on the coast and get myself way up here, that's huge in this kind of game.
Oh yeah,
it is.
But I have to spend the resources to be able to unlock that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and there's a reason for all of the mechanics in this game, which is something very important to us. So the mechanics are all explained by the background, and so that makes it even more immersive. When you play, you really have this feeling you're controlling your army, you're discussing and negotiating with the other clan leaders, that you're fighting, or that you're creating and building your geothermal farm. So there's an immersion in the game, and we have lots of art also. Each event card has a different and unique art. So yeah, it all makes it a little more immersive than just what you can have with these sorts of games usually.
Well, that's another level of the tactics of the game as well, because whenever you're playing the game, you do have a bit of a take that mechanic in that events deck, but that comes down to where do I tactically place myself during the conclave phase, which is basically a phase where all the clans are getting together and sort of strategizing, planning what they want to do for the year. And one of them is the Archon, which actually lets you take control of the event deck. So whenever you are the Archon, you will get 2 cards to choose an event from, and you pick it, but you don't get the bad stuff being the Archon, and it kind of hits everybody else. But during the actual gameplay, you actually have to choose, when am I going to end my turn and maybe prepare for the conclave and maybe go and grab that for myself the next round, so everybody has access to it, which is something I really like. So it's again down to your tactical thinking.
And this first phase, the conclave, is very important. For me, when you're playing that kind of game, when you cannot change the way the game is played each turn, it's always the first player, it's always the same guy. It's changing everything. When you can
Anticipate.
and create, say, okay, next turn I'm going to be the first to play. It changes everything.
Yeah. The order changes every turn with this game, and you not only need to focus on the current turn, but the next one as well. Always.
Yeah, so there's some really deep strategic thinking that you can do with this game.
This is why I'm saying that this game will take a little long before you can really master it. You will be able to understand the mechanics, but you will necessarily make mistakes on the first game you play. And that shouldn't be a problem, hopefully. And then as you play more and more, you make less mistakes.
I even reckon it's part of the progression to learn a game. You have to make mistakes.
Of course. I mean, like, nobody steps into any game and instantly becomes a master.
No.
Or it's not such a great game, I think.
Well, it's that or you're a chess savant.
Yes.
All right, now, you've given us some images as well, Leo, that I would love to start bringing up.
Yes,
so
let's start.
if you want to start walking us through them. So
absolutely, yes.
The first thing, obviously,
is it's the box. So the box, on this box, there's something interesting to see. You can see some of the clan leaders. Now, of course, it says that it's a 2 to 5 player game. So at some points we were doing 6 players, but we realized that it was for the map and everything, it was a little too long, So we came back to 2 to 5, and this is what we will do. So you have also some art. There are 5 factions in the game that we will propose and offer if we go to retail. But for the Kickstarter, you will have 6 factions, plus all the little surprises that may arrive during the Kickstarter campaign. We really want the Kickstarter backers to really have something that no one else will have, right? Or that they will have to pay a lot to have.
Yeah, so basically getting in early gets you as much as possible for helping to support and create
Absolutely,
the game.
yes. We are very well, we know the backers are what made us, so we will always support them and bring and give them something really interesting. So now there's the age. We say 14 plus.
Makes sense, yeah.
So yeah, it's not a family game. I said it and I mentioned it because I really want to be clear to our audience. It's not a family game. It's not something you would learn like Super Fantasy Brawl in 5 minutes, but it's not complex either, So it's for, core gamers, I would say.
Those people who are just at that right age where they're really starting to blossom into tacticians.
Yes, absolutely, yes. And then the length of the game. So we say 90 to 120 minutes. I think what we could say is 30 minutes per player.
Yeah.
That's on average for a 4 turns game. Now, the length of the game also depends on the scenario you choose. You have like scenario cards that will give you how many turns you're going to play, the special rules you'll have, and so on. But on average, it's 30 minutes per player. If you play 2-player game, and I really like this way to discover the game because it's really fast and it's less than an hour.
Yeah, and whenever you're playing 2-player, everything is so open. You're not locked off from anything, so you can explore all the different mechanics, all the possibilities of the game.
It's a very good way to discover the game, to play 2-player game.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Next up, some of the
and yes, we said no dice, and this is no, not a problem. We said no dice, and this is also something. There's no randomness in this game. You can always anticipate, but there's still bluff, and there's still things you don't know. Well, you won't necessarily know the result of the combat because you can bet some of your resources to enhance your strength.
At which point you can play mind games with your opponent.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can't you, JB?
Yeah. It was pre-mind.
You will see that, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so now art. Art is part of what we really love. And so you can see a little bit of the universe. So let me give you a little background for this game. So we are 500 years in the future. So we often mention the climate change and warming, right? Global warming. And this has happened and for a long time. And there was a first catastrophe, which was the globes melted. And so the waters raised.
Hence no Ireland.
And many other, parts were flooded, and after that, and some specialists say that this global warming created a reaction, and we entered an ice age, a terrible one. One that destroyed most of the population on the planet, and they were survivors only in the cities. So it's in the future. They have technology. They could save some people in these big industrial cities.
Yeah, they were fit to keep the lights off.
Yes, exactly. And on the ports, because now the planet is covered with several meters of ice, the seas have become flows, right? Ice flows. And on the port, you can have, it's difficult to move and to travel in this world. And some of the people who control the havens, the ports, can have access to the seas, with ice skating boats, right?
Yes.
And these are called the Carronniers. So it's important to mention that because this is a big faction in this world, but it's not a one that you play.
Yes.
So they're sort of a mafia, you know. You want to go to the sea, you got to make a deal with us, otherwise...
You're on the ice floe without our permission.
No, exactly. There are pirates, there are dangers on the seas, just come to us, we'll let you go. And but there were some people who didn't like this life in the city, who wanted to survive in the wild, in the outdoor, but it was impossible until 50 years, about 50 years ago. There was a miracle that happened, and this miracle is like you could see all over the globe some steam columns appearing suddenly due to an underground intense local heating that happened there. And then suddenly there was an oasis of heat where there was no ice, everything defrost, and you could survive, you could harbor, you could,
Time to go scavenging.
So this is when the nomadic clans appeared, and you are in this game going to play a nomad clan leader, right? So they came to there and they could survive, but it was too nice, you know. This is a nightmarish world, and they realized that when you stay too long there, you start getting a disease that has no cure called the Bane. And this disease makes you become a little crazy. You start thinking differently, and you can even die. So that means they could never stay forever to a certain spot. They had to move constantly and find new steam columns, new oases, and move constantly and to prevent being affected by the Bane. So this is in this situation that we are. I must say that there is a reason behind all of this this thing. Everything has been described almost like in a role-playing game. So each faction has a big background. The world is developed. We have tons of assets and stories. Maybe we will use that to keep on developing this universe. And there are secrets, and we will reveal these secrets to the backers during the campaign. We will get there, but yes, just to know that there's lots of things. So here you can see an oasis of heat, like this steam column on the left. You can see a haven. You can see one of those boats arriving to a haven.
And then moving along, the faction art.
Yes.
Each one has such a clean style to it.
Yeah, and each one's got a very different background due to what they've been dealing with, the new appearance of the steam columns. So they are very asymmetrical in the play, but as well in the background.
So the first on the left is the Catabations. So these are the exclusive faction or clan that we are offering for this Kickstarter. So they are the most technologically advanced faction or clan of the whole universe. So yes, they refer to Greek leaders, well, Greek god leaders. You know, like you have some who are into you know, scavenging and repairing or creating things from metal. So
I'm going to guess Hephaestus.
yes, exactly.
There we go.
Some who take care of the dead.
Hades.
Yeah. You have some who take care of the crops. Demeter.
Yeah, okay.
And their big leader is called Zeus. And there is a secret behind this, but I'm not going to tell it now. What we can say is because of this technology, they are very good at gliding. They're using gliders. And so they ignore the mountains effect, which is very, very strong. Yeah, these areas. You have three types of areas: mountains, plains, and ice flows.
Next up.
Next up is the Rhone conglomerate. So these guys are very good at hacking technologies. They are another technological faction, right? But they're supposed to have a democracy, but they are very selfish and sometimes even among themselves they have troubles. What they can do is, for instance, they will sabotage their own areas. So when you go get and want to take their
they leave little booby traps.
exactly.
I see.
Yeah. So yeah, they are faithless, ruthless people, but pretty efficient.
Sign me up. Next up.
Next up is the Menrau. So these are the nature-oriented guys. So they have a bond with nature. They have a bond with animals. They have like druids and shamans and all these things. And they have like these big what do you call them? Walkers or
the constructs.
Yeah. They sow mines. They do things. They are an interesting faction. They are good at supporting their guys.
yeah.
They're also good at using contaminated resources and not be affected, right? But if you try and steal their things, you could be contaminated. We'll talk about contamination a little later.
Well, when we get into like our gameplay and stuff, we can look at that. Next up.
Okay, next up is the Rheinfreier Stamm. So you know what kind of music they listen to? So these guys are, Scandinavian and German folks and people.
Yeah.
They have united, so they can gather a lot of people. Like these are like strong guys. They have a leader who wears a mask. And you don't know whether this leader is immortal or whether he changes over time.
Yeah,
you never see
a
his face.
successor. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
you never see his face. And they use like these big tanks and like
They are quite brutal.
yeah, very, very brutal. The most offensive faction you can have.
And they use technology as long as it lasts.
Yes.
So
When it's done, we'll get
bullets
something
dead
else.
and,
Yeah.
oh look, you've got a nice tank there. I like that tank.
And then we have the High Glimmer Apostles. Yeah. Off camera, this is of course what Gerry chose.
Of course.
These are like kind of monk soldiers. There was a religion that appeared with the steam columns. Suddenly people said, we don't seem to have a sun anymore, but there can be heat. There can be heat coming from under, from the...
The sun was warm, wasn't it?
So what did they want to do? They created a new religion, and this is a schism, a schism,
Schism?
a schism,
Okay.
a schism from the early religion, and these are even more. How would you say fanatics, right?
Definitely.
Well, once you have a religious military on the board, that's a fanatic army right there.
Yeah.
So they have a plan. I'm not sure I'm gonna have to tell it now exactly what this plan is. But in the meantime, what they do is try to convert as many people to their religion as they can.
Oh, yeah.
And so their big elite unit is called the Idol. Like it's always like this son that it was the son of the underson, like they could, they believe
careful,
in.
Leo, you're leaking.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
leaking.
going there. I'm leaking a little bit. Yes, but yeah, these are very interesting guys to follow. They have like very good defense when they stay where they are, and they can convert people. This is how you would most likely describe them.
And they're very clean. I mean, they don't have any contraband.
Yes.
Oh, they're very
no
law-abiding,
contamination.
very safe.
Like very. Yeah. No contraband. No. Absolutely. You're right. Yes.
And then lastly,
And lastly, we have the Free Fleet. So the Free Fleet, these are the pirates of this world. You can see them like a little bit of the pirates from Waterworld, right? So they are on the seas, on the ice floes.
Yep.
And yes, they go there. They used to live on an iron island made of everything they could scavenge, you know, like metal, like all the shipwrecks that they could gather, and they created this iron island, and now they have like these machines that can go super fast on the ice, like this big wheel, this skate, and and they
think snowmobile on steroids.
yeah, absolutely. And then you would wonder, well, what about the Carronniers, right? But there is a story behind this, and you will see that also.
And we can add that the Free Fleet has got a special relationship with the Carronniers in some way.
In a way, yes.
Well,
that has to
pirates,
be
mafia.
Yeah, exactly.
We might need those guys on the sea,
Yeah, they get along well. But as a clan, they are very interesting because controlling the seas means you are much faster and you can reach all sorts of regions super fast.
Yeah, so in a game where movement is key, these guys are basically your best beginner faction, I would recommend.
Yeah. The problem is they don't have a lot of elite. You know, they have limited resources for their elite.
Yeah.
They would be too powerful, maybe, otherwise.
Oh, yeah, definitely. From what I've played of this, definitely.
But still, you have to be very careful with your moves, because if you're attacking somewhere and you don't have a way to come back in the event that you lose, you lose your troops. So you have to be kind of careful how you expand, you know? You
just don't go everywhere and
don't
attack
be too
and say,
gung-ho. Next up, the world map.
Yes,
it's
the world
a
map.
gorgeous piece of artwork.
Thank you. You know, it was not easy to design a map where everything is frozen and it's ice and make it look nice. And I think we're very pleased with the result we got, because it's a nice map and it's very easy to read and to see. So there's no problem knowing which area is where and so on. And yes, so it's nice of Europa in the future. So yes, the seas have risen, and then they have frozen. And now you can see these different areas. You can see lots of information also on the lower left side. You have the geothermal resources.
So that's your Victor tracker.
On the left, you have the conclave information. We mentioned that briefly. So that means the role you want to choose for the upcoming turn. The turn is about a year in gameplay. And then you have the contracts you can have on the seas. You can see like 1, 2, 3 slots. The third one with a 5 on it is for the 5-player game. Otherwise, you only use 2 slots. That means when you have 2 contracts on the sea in a 4 or less player game, no one else can access this sea. So this is also something you have to deal with.
But you have to pay that upkeep, so there's a resource management there as well.
Oh, yes.
Then the layout.
Yes.
Whenever you see everything out around the board and just seeing people moving around the board always brings it to life for me.
Yeah. And you see, we wanted colored miniatures so that they would stand out in this black and white, white universe. You can definitely see them. Although they're very detailed, we wanted to give them colors so you would immediately see them.
Although I am kind of waiting to just see what you guys do for your painted miniatures, because you always blow me away. It's just like,
well, of course, painters who want to paint them can.
Yeah.
I would suggest maybe leaving something of their initial color, so you know, purple
just for
so
faction
you can
recognition, yeah.
recognize them easily. But they are very, very detailed. They're in 15 mil,
Yep.
like the same scale we used for Joan of Arc.
Yep.
And yeah, the elite are not in this scale though, because they otherwise this wouldn't
They would
fit.
be huge.
Yeah, they would be huge. But it's still enough to recognize and differentiate them.
Yeah. Then factions.
Factions, yes. So the High Glimmer Apostles. So you can see you have two sorts of minis. You have the soldier and the elite unit.
Yep.
So a soldier is worth 1 point in strength, and the elite is worth 2 points, and then you have special rules. And this is the number of minis you will have. So a total in the box will be 96 minis, plus everything that we will add.
Yeah.
And each faction has 16 minis. Some, yeah. 16 minis total, some with just soldiers and then the elite. So you have 3 elite here and thus that is 13 soldiers. And then you have like the board, the clan board with all the information. So on the left side, you have where, you know, like these 3 circles are how many special abilities you can play during your turn. So every time you play one, you cover it. You have the name of the faction. You have the army size around, you see, depending on your resource, you will be able to have more or less.
So your victory condition is not actually static. Once you've earned it, you keep it. Every round, you're going to be rechecking your resources. If you hit the 10, you win, but you can go up and down and all over that depending on what has happened to you during the turn. So you could find yourself on 8 one round, and then all of a sudden you've taken a massive beating and you're back down to like 3.
That's it, exactly. On the center, like this big thing, are your algofuel resources. The algofuel is the only kind of resource of energy that can be created in this world. So you have barrels, normal barrels of algofuel, and then you have contraband.
Which these don't use.
Yeah, these don't use, so you don't have them here. And then on the right, yes, you have the rules for your elite unit, and then your incubation. So now we are on the Rhone conglomerate. So we mentioned like these kind of hackers. So
you see, they use some contraband in the algofuel.
well, you see, the 3-1 they have here, so they add to their reserve of algofuel. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 normal barrels every turn, plus 3 contraband. So you refill your algofuel reserve every turn, and then you have to manage this for the whole turn.
Yeah, but the contraband ones they have a little different symbol, which is pushing up that incubation. So you're sort of harming yourself to do a little bit more.
And that's the same. The incubation will raise during your turn, and the higher it goes, the worse it gets for you. If you reach the quarantine levels, that means you have to cover some part of your board, and if you reach the last one, you will kill and remove minis from the game. That means they don't come back to your reserve. So we can see here the free fleet.
So if you're pushing yourself super hard, it can really mess you up.
And you can see that they only have 2 elite units. But they're great.
It's all asymmetrical because you can see that each board doesn't have the same options for the incubation level, for the algofuel reserve, for the special actions. So everything is asymmetrical. The rules are, so it makes choice of a faction
and more interesting. And and when you play a different faction, you will really feel a difference in the gameplay. Now, you can see the Rheinfreier Stamm from closer. Like they have these big tanks, like, and you can see
they've added so much tribal stuff to it, which I really, really like the look of. And you can see these guys, they like big armies, they like to be on the attack. They've got some contraband, but not a huge amount. And their incubation is sort of in the mid-range, which is really good.
The good thing with them is when they can recruit more people when they as a special action, and when they attack, the elite unit is not strength 2 but strength 3. which is huge.
Yeah, if you're a number cruncher, that makes a huge difference.
And you can see, so the way we present the board on the left, you have like the art of the normal soldier, and on the right, the art of the elite. And that was important because, as you can see, for these ones, the catabations, the elite is not a vehicle. It's a glider soldier, you know, that can completely ignore mountains.
Yeah, which again, once you can actually take out some of the components, it just, if I'm ignoring mountains and everybody else is having to deal with them, it just makes my life so much easier.
Oh yeah.
And then some of the actual components of the
game.
game.
Actual components. So as you can see, we have a wheel for each faction, and this wheel is when you are in combat, you can bet some of your algo fuel resources, and so you can bet from 0 to 6. 6 is the maximum, and you secretly bet, and like like you're doing. You see.
So say we were fighting. I had 5 guys. You had 4.
Yeah.
Are you the attacker or the defender?
I'll be the attacker.
Okay.
So I would throw in 5.
I'm throwing 6.
Ah,
It's a draw.
draw. Yes.
Yeah,
But because you're
the
attacker,
Win.
you win,
Yeah.
and he loses his 5 algo
So
fuel.
I have to spend those algo fuels. Then.
Yes, and you don't have them for the remaining of the turn, which is a problem.
Are you planning to do the algo fuel barrels in this sort of clear plastic?
Yes. They will be exactly like this. Yes, they will be like this. Here, the tokens you can see are the blue one is the beacon here. Well, it's blue because it's one of the catabations, but the others have different colors, obviously. The turret is gray because a turret is not linked to your clan. It is neutral, so that means if you control an area where the turret was, it becomes yours. And then you have the geothermal farm, and that's the same. The geothermal farms can be stolen by someone who will attack you. And of course, right now, these are tokens, but you never know what we can do.
You guys. We know you guys.
We could turn some of them into minis, right? Especially for our backers. I think that would be nice.
This is what we were talking about the board. So we have the conclave space here, where we've got our Steamwatcher location, our Archon location, our Legate, our Steamwatcher, and then the last one is the Primus.
Yes.
So each of those will give you a different ability.
Yeah, the Legate is the ability for you to make a deal with the Coroneers and have access to some special areas of the seas. And the Primus position grants you choice for the next turn. You will automatically choose what you will be, which position you will have for next turn, and it also prevents you from being demoralized when you lose a battle.
Yeah, which can really be crippling sometimes.
What you can see also here, of course, you have the geothermal farm, so and then you have the 3 different columns that you can have: 1 level, 2 levels, or 3 level columns. Once it will go down every turn.
Yeah, I'm guessing like a massive pressure eruption, just down. Okay, we can work with that now.
Yes, when it's low, then you can turn it into a geothermal farm, and it will remain
just as a stable resource.
Yes, stable resource.
And
Yes, and safe resource. When the steam columns are there and are decreasing, you can be contaminated if you remain there. So yeah, this is all the difficulty. The resources that you can see here, at any time you can see where everybody is at the game, because the purpose of the game is to reach 10. The first player who reaches 10 instantly wins, even if it's not the end of the game. So that means you can have shorter games if one player is particularly good and the other made some mistakes.
It also kind of red flags whoever is getting close to that. You might want to start targeting
exactly.
them.
Exactly.
So here we can see.
So on here you would see green would be getting close, but they're in a very strong aggressive position.
Yeah, exactly.
We then have some of the cards we talked about.
Exactly. So the different cards we have in this game, apart from the Steam watching cards that we'll see later, you have scenario cards. So we'll have several scenario cards to start with. you have tutorial scenarios, you have expert scenarios. Some scenarios will explore a different aspect of the game. The scenarios gives you how many turns you will play. So it will be between 3 and 6 turns.
Yeah.
It also gives you the setup. So there will be some special rules for setup. So maybe some Steam columns will appear more than usually. And then they will give you the special rules. So that means each scenario will give a different flavor to your games. And they tell a story, which is also something we wanted. They tell a story because the combination of the scenario plus the event that you have gives a whole story to your game.
Yeah.
And then the scenario cards are the next ones that you can see here. So the scenario cards are
the events.
Oh, sorry, the events. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. The event cards are the cards that the Archon will draw, and he will draw 2 of them and choose one.
Yeah.
And then he will not be affected by the bad effects of the events, but the other players will.
Yeah, and he will get any good effects off the events.
Absolutely.
Which can be huge, huge.
And we have a lot of event cards, and we have a unique art for each of them. I'm specifying this because people know about these games, like you can have like tons of events, but usually you don't have art.
Yeah.
We have different art. And yes, you keep the event cards visible as they are the turns marker. So when you have one event for each turn, and when you have, let's say it was 4 turns, when you have the 4th card,
you know you're on
you
your
know,
left.
it's the... Yeah.
Again, it's all open information that makes it easy for us to see what's going on. Yeah. We then have, incubation we were talking about.
Yes, the Bane. So every time you do something during this game that can make you contaminated, you will move the marker up.
Yeah, you're
right?
pushing your luck on it.
Yes. So what can make you become infected? Well, every time you use a contraband
Algo fuel, yeah.
Algo fuel, we saw that. Every time you are in an area where the steam columns decreases, so that gives you geothermal points, but that also is a risk to stay there.
Yeah.
And every time you build a geothermal farm, you will also rate. And then there are some special rules like event or things that will make
Push
you
it up,
contaminated. And once you reach the quarantine one, that means you see the quarantine token will be put on a different aspect. That means you will have less choices for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So if you choose to cover your special abilities spot,
you can use less of them.
yeah, you will lose less of them. If you cover your algo fuel barrels, you will have less during your turn. And if you cover your army size, that means you will not be able to have as many elite soldiers on the map. And if you have more than what you're allowed to,
you begin to lose them.
you lose them. Yeah.
And then next up, gorgeous artwork. Wow, just gorgeous artwork.
Yeah, well, you can see on the left the High Glimmer Apostles on their secret project.
That looks like a nice religious shrine. That's totally safe.
Then you can see the Rhone conglomerate using their super technological weapon that can track signals and
they can basically corrupt the orders in neighboring zones.
yes, exactly. Then you have like some people exploring. You have like we have created a lot of art for this game to put you into this universe.
Yeah, and then
You can see some others here.
Die Reinfreistaben.
Yeah, they just look so kick-ass. I really, really like them.
And we have the. You can also see that with our trailer.
Yeah. Now, anybody who's sharp-eyed, you're going to see down the front there. There's a few little things that are going to be revealed during the Kickstarter that you guys are. There's always surprises from you guys, and it's grey on grey, so you might need to get some image enhancement out.
Or maybe we can show them. Why not?
Well, if you want.
Okay.
I was trying to be a tease.
Yeah. I think we can show them a little bit.
Let's have a wee look here. So, what all have we got? I'm going to pick something here. Let's go with the train. And Lloyd is going to freak because you actually have it so that your carriage is.
Yeah, you can
up.
assemble it. And yes, you can have like the different wagons.
Yeah. Now, is it a train or a land train? I'm going to ask.
It's a land one.
Yeah.
It's a land one. It's the one you can see in the trailer. And this is part of an expansion. We'll have 3 expansions, 3 small expansions in this game. And one is with the trains. And they add some new options to the game. They give you some new possibilities. One of them has weapons. The other gives you speed, and the other gives you resources. And it's a cool expansion that you will have. So that's one of the expansion.
Who is this?
Oh, this is your clan leader vehicle. So you will have an expansion based on clan leaders. So instead of having just a token and all clan leaders who can do the same, you will have personalized clan leaders. So these are all the six guys you'll have. Of course, they'll be colored. Right now, it's just a 3D printed, not even.
So this is your prototyping stage?
Yeah, this is a prototype. It's not even primed. It would look better if we simply primed them. But yeah, we said we could show that to you guys. So yeah, these are the vehicles. So the way it works, they can be in the conclave, and they will be super strong and give you even more options in the conclave, or you can bring them to the battlefield, but then they're no longer on the conclave, and so it's a decision you have to make. Do you want to use their firepower, and because they will be the strongest of your troops on the battlefield, or do you want to use them in the conclave? So this will be another expansion.
So that'll add another layer of depth to this. And then
so this is for the High Glimmer Apostles. Yeah, this is like their clan. Yeah, they're.
So they don't get a vehicle, it's just dude in big armor.
Yeah.
That is very, very cool for an expansion.
Yeah. So we'll have, and the third expansion will be about diplomacy. So we'll have diplomacy cards that you can exchange and trade with your
new mechanics.
Yeah, new mechanics. That will be great.
Yeah, and then the last couple of things we have here.
Well, we told you, we have tokens for beacons and for turrets. So for beacon, this is
this is your turret.
So yeah,
we
could replace all of the tokens with these 3D things, and this is the I don't know if you can really
prototype
see
for the algo fuel.
For the algo fuel, yeah,
Awesome,
absolutely.
awesome. I'm super excited for this, guys. Make sure and go and check it out on Kickstarter. Now, Leo.
Oh yeah. Before that.
Oh, right. What we forget?
We must remind people how long the Kickstarter will be.
Yes.
Yes, true. So it starts on the 3rd of March, right? And it will last for 10 days only, right?
Only 10 days.
Only 10 days.
Flash in the pan.
Yeah. So we want to do something special with this campaign. We want to bring like new stories and unfold secrets as we go, and we want to give you unlocks.
Yes.
So unlocks will be improvements, will be things that we give you during the campaign, not necessarily stretch goals, because it's a finished game. It's not easy to do that many stretch goals, but we want to make the campaign entertaining and nice, and so everything will be available day one. So all 3 expansions. So one expansion is at I think 15, and another one at 20, and or 25, and the last one at 35. So the base game is $89. The all-in gameplay is $149, and so you have 3 expansions. And if you want to add the neoprene deluxe mat instead of having this, it'll be $169 for the all-in plus, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Not a problem. Now, people are waiting on some of the other games you guys have been creating.
Yes.
And I'm going to be honest here. I'm super excited for this one because it's a game I've been waiting for ages, and we finally have it. So,
it's Christmas again.
Reichbusters has
It's coming,
landed.
guys. It's coming.
And not just the core set. If I turn this around the right way. Not of this Earth.
This is the expansion. This is the core game.
Project X.
Project X, another expansion.
The
Cargo hold
Cargo
is
hold.
is the stretch goal box.
Yep. And then, of course, some of the other little bits too.
So this is Sally. You know, she was very, very popular. And these are the doors. You know, the 3D doors.
Warren squeed a little.
Oh yeah, they're so great. So yes, it's all coming. You got it. You got them now. Hope you can do maybe.
Oh, I'm gonna unbox these. I want to let everybody see what's coming in these boxes, and I am probably gonna play them to death.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're very, very happy. We were lucky on this one because the boats could leave before Chinese New Year,
Yep.
the lunar year. Or,
Year of the Rat now.
yeah.
Funny that.
Yeah. So we were not affected by the
Yeah, Corona.
coronavirus.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is, it's so it left earlier, early enough. So it's coming. It's. I think the first boat is docking on the 29th of February, and then in the US it's on the 4th of March, and then you have custom, and then you have delivery. So. We don't know, but it's coming this month, right?
Yeah. So basically, you're
there's
approaching that finish line.
Yeah. Unless there's an unexpected event, coronavirus, we could not expect that. You don't know how customs will go, but if things go well, that means people should receive it in March.
Yeah.
All of you guys.
Yes, so that's super exciting. And then your other games as well, I assume they're all on track or just slightly delayed with Corona and stuff.
So yeah, Super Fantasy Brawl was sent to the printer as well, to the factory. They have received everything. They have started printing it. We have received the plastic minis. You guys have them too?
I will be showing those off in a future video as well. But
seeing
unfortunately, that final
unfortunately,
production quality is good.
yeah, unfortunately, they couldn't start until after Chinese New Year, and this is exactly when the outbreak.
Yeah, so it's basically working through that, but it's still there. It's still being
there.
worked on.
They said right now they're anticipating a month's delay. Instead of finishing end of March, they plan on finishing end of April, and we hope that it will remain like this.
Well, I mean, it's something you guys are always great about. If you're ever wondering about one of the Kickstarters you've backed for the team at Mythic, make sure and jump onto the Kickstarter page. Keep an eye out on the Facebook, because you guys are always doing like live feeds, What's Up Wednesdays. One of the best companies that actually connect with the backers to actually keep them up to date with what's going on.
Thank you.
Well, guys.
We want to keep people informed. When we're late, we'll tell people. When things are going well,
Oh yes.
we'll also tell and celebrate. But yes, everything is on track. Well, with our recent announcements, right?
Yeah.
So Rage Busters is coming, Super Fantasy Brawl is coming. The next one will be Solomon Kane. The first wave should arrive by this summer. And we are very, very excited about this. This is a game we've worked so much on, and we have over developed. But I think we really have something unusual, and that won't look like anything else. And then it will be Enchanters in September. It's a very easy project for us to deliver. It's just cards, and most of them have been done already. There's this new expansion and the French translation. The French translation is on track. It's actually almost finished.
Nice.
So we will be on time, and we will deliver it in September. And then in October it will be Joan of Arc 1.5. So the reprint. It's well on track as well. And so. This will be a big year for deliveries, and we're very, very excited, and we thank all of the fans for their continued support and trust, and that means so much to us.
All right, well, Leo, JB, it's been a pleasure. Everybody,
Likewise.
Get your comments in below, and I'm sure the guys will be keeping an eye on the comments as well. They'll probably jump in with you. We'll move on. We'll see you again soon. So yeah, this one has me super excited. It's another one of those great Mythic Games designs where the mechanics are clean and you can just drop in and play, and it's so tactically deep. Myself and Gerry actually got to play a game against each other. Sorry, Gerry.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
I did. It was great.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. He alpha striked me on turn one. And then,
You were wide open!
and then in the same turn, Leo alpha striked him and did far more damage to him than was done to me.
All right, okay.
It was, watch
It
the
was
Let's Play
hilarious.
when it's out. It is absolutely glorious.
I still can't work out what it's got to do with spying on people in finished saunas, mind you.
Yes. That's one kind of Steam watching, really, isn't it?
Other different part of the internet. That's your incognito tab.
One of the things I quite like about the ethos of Mythic Games is myself and Leo get the odd time to chat.
Yeah.
And Leo and Benoit have always been driven by having a diversity within their games catalog. That they don't want all their games to feel the same or to be the same. So they work very hard on trying to broaden the gameplay styles. And it's a smart thing to do, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, look, we want to appeal to a broad range of gamers. And then bring those gamers together, basically. So it's not all the one type of gamer that they end up with. They get lots of different gamers, and then the beauty of it is they end up enjoying Mythic Games, and then you start to get that crossover, and it starts to bring folk together. I like it. I like it as a strategy. I think it's a really nice mentality within the Mythic circles to try and do that. So this is definitely what is it? Is it considered a 3X or a 4X?
4X is what the guys were telling me during the interview.
Yeah.
But it's just a super deep strategy game played in post-apocalyptic Ice Age Europe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, the mechanics for the movement and everything in this game are so critical. The idea that you're possibly catching a little bit of the bane whenever you're pushing yourself too hard, or whenever you're gathering resources, you're becoming infected by this.
Ice Age
It's really nice. Yeah. Ice Age Europe.
Are there Neanderthals?
No, future Ice Age.
Future Ice Age Europe, yeah.
So global warming got us in the end.
Yeah.
So it did, yeah. Right. Kickstarters, Ben. This is that point of the show where it all hinges on you, my man. We're down to, does he nail it or does he not?
Oh, no.
What did you pick this week?
Okay, so the first one is from a company called Sarissa Precision, which we absolutely love. They do some absolutely stunning terrain for a whole bunch of different things. But they are on Kickstarter right now to fund a huge project called the Alamo. And as you might imagine, this means they are trying to bring the Alamo to life in terrain form. This is going to be a 28mm kit, which contains a whole bunch of different sections. So you've got walled sections and buildings. You've also got the iconic chapel and loads of extra bits and pieces on the side as well. All of it comes in NDF, although there are a bunch of sort of resin extras that you can use as defenses and things, which are added on later on down the campaign page. But this all comes then mounted on what's called their terrain tile system, which is their sort of modular way of building up boards and tablescapes for you to use on the tabletop. This means that this could be used in a whole range of different configurations if you wanted to. So if you don't want to use it as the sort of historical Alamo for a little bit of Wild West fighting, you could use it in a whole bunch of different games as well. So some of the stuff they've looked at in terms of the uses for this is that you could transport it away to the likes of the Middle East, and you could have a fight between maybe insurgents and the Brits and stuff, or maybe you could use it in a sci-fi game and have it used that way. Obviously, fantasy as well would be really cool. The fact that it's all sort of been scaled to 28mm means that it effectively has a wide base for a whole bunch of different stuff. When it comes to the sort of campaign itself, you can either pledge for either individual sort of sections of the Alamo, so you can get like the chapel, or you can get the whole set. You can also get it pre-assembled if you want to, so you get it basically straight, ready to get painted on, or you can get it completely pre-painted, so that you basically just have to take it out of the packaging, set it up on the table, and start playing games with it. When it comes to sort of like massive terrain sets, this one seems like it's got a whole bunch of different sort of variations and styles to it. It should be really fun to use on the tabletop. Looks really nice. The guys at Sarissa always do really high quality products. So if you want to get yourself something like this that could be used across a whole range of different genres, then go and check out the Alamo on Kickstarter.
Jerry, it's the Mandalorian terrain. Stay eyes.
It's a bit of everything. The nice thing about Adobe Buildings is they work for several hundred, if not a couple of thousand years, and across 3 continents. So you're flying with it before you even get into science fiction and fantasy. I think the Alamo is about now. Did they launch this Kickstarter to meet the Alamo anniversary?
I'm not entirely sure.
I have a sneaking suspicion the Alamo was last week. So they may have kicked off. When did they? Whenever they kicked. Yeah. Well, anyway, so it's a lovely.
All you've got to remember is remember the Alamo.
Remember the Alamo. The full Alamo must be some size.
That is pretty big. I mean, like, I look at this And there was a novel series that I read whenever Wild West Exodus first came out.
Yeah.
And they actually had a Union-like prison camp where all the Confederate soldiers were being held. I would love to rebuild that with this as a gaming table, and I think it would look absolutely epic.
This terrain kit would work across so many games. Wild West Exodus.
Yeah.
Any of the modern combat games, like Spectre and stuff that we're seeing.
I'd happily use this for Star Wars Legion, sci-fi it up a little.
Absolutely. You know, it's I want to see some Mandos running around.
Oh yeah.
On that, I think it would be amazing.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
Lovely.
I wonder if that's big. Bring the picture back.
There you go.
I wonder if this is big enough to get our Millennium Falcon right in the middle.
I'm sure we could get some additional
those
tiles.
full tiles, I think, are
foot square.
I think they're just under foot. I was thinking, especially they may be. No, they may actually.
I've got to say, the tiles is the only bit I'm not sold on. I'm not sold on these interlocking tile systems. Just in general, I'm not sold on interlocking tile systems.
See, I don't know. I think if you got those like textured up really nicely, you might be okay.
No, you'd still see the interlocking, and you could never paint them to match to the point where you could shuffle them around completely.
I don't know. I'm happy enough to accept it for speed of setup.
Yeah.
Plus the fact then you could maybe work it in.
But why would that be any faster than rolling out a cool desert mat and then just chucking down the buildings?
Let me scroll down a little bit here, and I think
but obviously I'm thinking in a world where the buildings are not stuck to those.
See, I think the base might be an integral part of this. So you could possibly just cut the base off.
Yeah.
Because MDF's easy enough to cut with like a Stanley knife or something.
But it's just like, why not create it as a series of building components?
But go back up. Go back up to the big picture.
Okay.
Because you've done it that way, you do also have the option of, saying, oh, there's little segments and put in some house rules based on being in particular tiles and things as well.
You could do a zoned movement.
You could do like a dead zone kind of thing. It's I'm just not convinced. I'm not a massive fan of the aesthetic of it. I find it difficult to work with from a painting perspective. Because you think it's modular. We've done some modular boards in the past, and the chances of ever getting them to match to the point where it is
that's not going to happen.
Truly modular is always very
But
slim.
you have to just accept that and go, that's close enough.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Right. As well as that, Ben, 9 days left on the Alamo, guys, if you want to get stuck into that. We have another Kickstarter, 10 days left, by a friend of the OnTableTop community. Well, two friends of the OnTableTop community. This is by the Caesars. This is the Dungeons and Designs Volume 1.
Yeah, so this is by Chris and Jack Caesar, who are, as you say, known as Caesar Inc. And they are on Kickstarter looking to fund the sort of collection of adventures and dungeon designs in an A5 format in print for you to have in front of you. Now, all of these are available already through DriveThruRPG, and you pay a little bit of money, you can pick them up, or you can get them for free as well if you want. But the artistry in them is fantastic, so you should definitely add a little bit of money into their pockets. But they are now trying to do something for those people that like to have something in front of them in physical form. Now, all of these dungeons and designs are actually designed as part of a live stream that they run on Twitch on Mondays at 8 o'clock. In the evenings. So if you want to go and get involved and actually help them build some of these dungeons, you have the ability to do so. And this is the fruits of their labors as part of a Volume 1 collection that they're trying to bring together on Kickstarter. I believe they are actually funded as we are speaking, so it'd be very awesome to see some people pick these up and use them in their games. All of the stuff that you get in there, you get all of the sort of details for running the adventure. So you get all the things to do with all the different characters, the NPCs. You also get a sort of postcard dungeons tile, which gives you an idea of how it all lays out. So you can put that in front of all your players in the middle of the table. And also, all of these adventures have been done so they are system agnostic. So you can use them in whatever role-playing game you want. Obviously, some of them are a little bit more geared towards sci-fi, some a little bit more geared towards fantasy. But that's the idea, having something that's system agnostic. You can sort of flavor it however you want and mix and match it and sort of fit it into your campaigns as you see fit. But yeah, the art is fantastic. They're two awesome fellows, and the Twitch live stream is a lot of fun to get stuck into. They have done some really creative stuff with this. So if you like the idea of diving in or picking up something relatively cheap to use in your D&D games, for example, and sort of like spicing things up as you go along, then this is definitely a Kickstarter that you want to go and check out.
Absolutely. Cool. Wonderful artists. You will know them from the Justin's and Dragons cartoons that go up on tabletop every week. They're two wonderful, wonderful human beings. and their dungeons are great. So if you fancy supporting them, head on over to that Kickstarter and get stuck in. Otherwise, why not tune in to one of their Monday night dungeon builds, and you could be the one that can work with them and inspire whatever the dungeon of that week is going to be. Right, next up, what is fast becoming a firm favorite, 3D printing. So 3D printing has been a godsend for wargamers. For more reasons than you think, and there's a very simple reason to this that I think is often overlooked, and that's to do with the flexibility that 3D printing gives us to explore the gamut of the wargaming hobby. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a show and tell in this 3D printing, just to show you what is feasible at the moment with the cost-effective 3D printing technologies that we currently have. So everything I'm going to be talking about here is going to be done on a machine that will be ranging in around the £200, $200 and something mark. Okay, so considering that many of us in our time have spent at least that on an army. At least that on an army. I think it has now hit a price point where every wargamer should at least consider it as part of their hobby. So 3D models. I believe every model I'm going to show you here today is from printablescenery.com, who are pretty much my favorite 3D model and STL file provider. I absolutely adore their stuff. As a group of designers as well, they have designed their stuff to print mostly without supports, which is another really important thing for 3D printing, because the less mucking around you have to do with supports.
Pop it in your slicing program and hit slice is what you want.
So I want to talk about scales and look at just how 3D printing has coped with the scales and what it opens for us, okay? So I'm going to start with this. This is an epic looking siege tower. So this is the 28mm siege tower from Printable Scenery.
Now this is one of the first things we actually 3D printed from them.
So this is as it comes, and this is if you print the file just as they have uploaded it, without any rescaling at all, that is how it comes out, and it's not lots of little multi-levels. It really is an excellent model, one that I'm particularly fond of, because let's face it, siege towers are probably one of the coolest things ever in the world.
And if you were going to try and make one of these as a homebrew piece, you need so many coffee stirrers, and you're clipping and clipping and clipping.
So I have recently printed this in 15mm. Now, I'm working on a Crusades game at the moment. So here I have my kind of Crusaders and some Saracens. This will be my Saladin and my Richard the Lionhearts in here when I've got them finished and painted. But I was able to take that model and scale it down to 15mm, at which point it looks like this. Now, I printed this one on a resin 3D printer, okay? So it takes a couple of prints, because it needs 2 beds worth basically to print it. But the detail at 15mm is absolutely fantastic on a 3D printer. Fantastic.
Now, the difference between the two types, the resin bath printer, you'll get a far smoother finish on the facings of your stuff. This one was done on FDM. It's a little rougher.
Yes.
But once you actually get the paint down on it, do some weathering and stuff, you really don't notice the layering all that much.
Not so much. Not so much. So let's continue on. So here's another experiment that I conducted this week, so as I could show you. This is a farmhouse and farm layout with walls, barn, houses, and gateways. So the farm itself comes at 28mm. We rescaled this one to print it out for Flames of War. So we use that on a Flames of War layout. I wondered, how far can I push this? Okay, so that was printed at 15mm on an FDM printer, just using filament, and probably a 0.2 quality on that one.
0.2 quality. The nice thing for this was you're able to get a lot of this on at 15mm on an FDM printer because your bed size is about, say, that squared if you look between the two corners of my hands there. So you've got a good bed size and you can get a lot of this on. And if you're clever with your layout within your slicing program, what I was actually doing was, you look, some of this is hollow, right? And what I was doing was, I would take some of the wall segments and place them inside the walls.
Yes.
So that you got the maximum usage
Yeah,
of your bed.
It basically means that as you're printing, it'll print walls in there, and then as it goes up, then it prints any kind of roof parts and stuff over it. So.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, the way I had laid my bed out, I was putting segments of wall on the floor inside here.
Correct, yep.
And that made it so much more efficient.
I did exactly the same, but I started to push it. So for a lot of you historical gamers out there, you will have other scales in mind. So I was wondering just how far we could go out scale-wise to meet your demands. 6mm is a very popular scale in historical wargaming. It's also a very popular scale in 40k gaming because 6mm was the epic scale.
Yep.
So I decided to take the same files and reduce them down to try and do a 6mm print, okay? And this is the end result. So what I wanted to know was, would the walls and the roofs, tiles, and all the little details all still stack up and be visible whenever it was taken down to 6mm? When it came to, so these are some 6mm minis here. Whenever it came to the house, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to take it down even further just to see how the details are. And I decided to print the house with its full interiors.
Yeah, and it looks like it's worked quite nicely.
Yeah. So here you can see the stairs and staircase.
You got bookcases with things on the shelves.
Yeah, so on this one, you can see bookcases. You can see the banisters. The banisters actually printed better on the resin printer at this scale than sometimes it prints on the FDM printer. And then in here, you can also see the little fireplace and even the details on the floorboards of the floor. So clearly, having a resin printer, buying your 28mm stuff, you are going to be able to start scaling that down. Will it be perfect? Maybe not, but heck, this was printed at a 0.01 layer height.
So you really went fine.
I went for the full, this was printed on the Elegoo Mars, and I decided to just push it to its maximum quality setting, 0.01, and that whole building took in the region of, I'd say, about 16 hours to print all of that.
That's not bad.
Over the course of 2 beds, and the beds were full, and I had a load of leftover walls.
Yeah.
Because like you, Justin, whenever I was laying it out, anywhere where I had a gap in a building, I was dropping walls in there to give me as full a bed as I possibly could get.
And that's a great thing to do with your resin bath ones, because it's not the amount that's on the bed that matters, it's the height of what's on the bed.
Yeah. Right. We then decided to take it to one of the extremes.
There's still a lot of detail there.
These, believe it or not, are 2mm minis. These are 2mm Eastern Indians, okay, to give us an idea of scale. And I've started to bring this down to its 2mm scale. Now, I decided to slightly overscale. I like my terrain slightly overscaled where possible, just to give a little bit more space and a little bit more presence to the terrain. Now, so I just want to turn this around and show you the details of it. So even at this scale, every roof tile is still visible. And once again, I decided to print the house in parts. And you can see, even now, again, I took the house down a scale just to see if I could take it even lower. So clearly these buildings could be reduced in scale even further if you consider that that building can be the same size as this one. So it can come down a little bit more and give you even more bang for your buck. This whole thing, all printed on one bed with some spare wall sections, and it cost 50p, and it took about 4 hours.
Yeah. Now, there is one thing I'll say whenever you're going down to the super small size games. Your buildings are less about having something that your miniatures interact with, more as being a location that you can mark on the tabletop. So I'm okay with overscaling it, because then you can fit your bases inside.
The beauty of it is I am fully confident now, having seen that test and having seen how I pushed the farmhouse to be an even smaller scale, that I'm fully confident that if 2mm wargaming is your thing, you're absolutely well covered by one of these Elegoo Mars or an Anycubic Photon resin printer.
Yeah.
And the quality, you know, I was wondering, would anything come out? But all of the detail, like you can even see the walls, if you can see the individual bricks and things like that on the walls. Justin, I'm absolutely delighted with what that was able to achieve.
Although I was having a look recently, I think the photons are actually currently sub 200. So they're at a really good deal at the minute.
Well, we go the other way.
Yeah, let's go the other way.
Let's start to talk about bigger buildings, okay? So here we have the castle. So this castle is 15mm. It's a 28mm castle that we have scaled down to 15mm. Once again, I'm using this with my Siege of Acre stuff. So some of these, the bigger bits are printed on FDM, and the wall segments I have printed on a resin printer, where I've hollowed it out and then printed it on the resin printer. And it just works great. I actually am very fond of the 15mm scale at the moment, primarily because of the little dioramas that you can do whenever it comes to 15mm. It's not just one guy per base. You start to get a little bit of movement, a little bit of action going on those bases.
Now, can you remember which slicer program you were using for that?
Yes, so whenever it comes to doing slicing for FDM, we use Cura. And whenever it comes to do slicing for resin printers, we use CheetoBox. And it gives us the control over that.
Both totally free programs.
So let's talk about scaling up, right? So there's a game out there that we're particularly fond of. It's called Conquest. Now, Conquest is a slightly larger scale again.
It's about 40mm scale, I would say.
So we are looking at the possibility of a Conquest event coming up. So we've started to work the process of actually getting some terrain ready for that Conquest event. So we scaled up the 3D print from the 28mm. We scaled it up by, I think it was like 127% or so.
Well, the way it worked out was, so the towers are 127%, the wall sections are 119, and then what you do is you unlock the scaling for Conquest. Because of the base type that it uses square bases that the round bases plug into. We then scaled the depth of it so that it'll take that base, and then we scaled the height of it so that it would actually remain nice and square.
Yeah. So that gives us lots of play area back here for... Now, everything is being kept as it is because we are going to be just doing a bit of experimenting to see if we can create molds and casts of these individual bits. And we're going to have a bit of an experiment with some of the different methods of casting that to see how big a castle we could build of that.
Now, an important thing with this is, so whenever you're doing 15mm, I can basically do this full tower on one bed.
Yeah.
When you're doing this scale, I can do one level on one bed.
Yes.
So your time scale does go up hugely whenever you're upscaling. So I think it's 2 days per level on this. So that's what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 days to do that. To
do one tower. So we have been running 3D printers quite hard in here just to get to this point.
Yeah, and we're lucky enough to have multiples.
So that shows you just the level of flexibility that you have, because believe it or not, terrain at this scale is very difficult to find. Conquest is a fairly new game. There's not a lot of terrain out there, but by having 3D printers, we were able to say, well, that doesn't bother us.
We'll just make it.
We'll just make it. Likewise, going down to, if you take a notion of 15mm, the way I did, the vast majority of my gaming was at 28mm. for the longest time. I took a notion of 15 mil, and I was able to just take the files that we already had and go, do you know what? I'm just gonna scale it all down and print just what I need. The cost benefits are primarily the main thing. You know, you are talking pence of filament to print something like that. You're talking pence of resin to print out something like that. That was maybe £1.50. That was 50p. You know, so if you're not in a rush, we tend to set up a printer and then just leave it and then come back to it in a few hours and do the cleanup. If you're not in a rush, this is absolutely the way to go.
Yeah. Now, even for the FDM stuff, the cost is pretty good because if you find a good deal on Amazon, you can get your reels for about 15, 14 quid. And then this, so if I split this in half, that's a reel with some left over.
Yeah. So you're looking at about 30 something pounds of material in the likes of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you were able to find something like that, to try and buy that
would be a lot more.
It would be a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more. Let me show you one more thing.
Okay.
Sometimes 3D printing just allows you to go mad. So one of the things that I'm working on at the moment is I'm working on another table, which is kind of a mystical, elven-y forest kind of table. This is a beautiful elven tower from the guys at Printable Scenery. One of the finest 3D models I have seen to date. It is absolutely gorgeous. So I've printed this for that table that I'm working on. But I wanted to go a bit crazy. So I decided to see how big we could go to have a centerpiece on the table. And this is the end result of just taking the file and scaling it up. This was printed on an Anycubic Predator, which is a it's
a Delta printer.
A Delta printer, yes, a large bed Delta printer. So Delta printers are maybe a little bit different from the normal 3D printers you see because they're suspended on 3 arms and it goes woo, 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 like that.
So the advantage is your bed is static. Your miniature is not getting vibrated from the forward and backward motion of the actual bed, which I quite like. And I like this as well because with the scale up, it just handles it really, really well.
Yeah, it scaled this beautifully. We were able to just print this in, I think it took about 3 different print sessions. But the end result
it was 4.
Is incredible.
Again, whenever you upscale, 1 level, 2 level, 3 level, 4 levels.
Yeah.
But this was an impressive one when it was done.
It's an incredible model, an absolutely incredible model. So what I'm trying to get across in this episode is to try and demonstrate to you guys that wherever you are on the wargaming spectrum, whether you are into your very fine 2mm scales, 6mm scales, there's a printer there that will do amazing things for you, okay? If you're more into your larger scales, once again, the FDM printers are unlocking all of that for you. And most importantly, if you're just someone that just wants to be able to experiment and to change the style and the nature of the games that they like to play, well, 3D printing, a little bit of organization, and you are good to go to do pretty much anything you want. You're now at the situation we have seen an eruption of 3D printing related Patreons and Kickstarters, etc. That you are at the stage now where regardless of what you want to play, there's probably something out there for it, terrain-wise, that you could put together and scale to whatever scale it is you want to play it at. I think 3D printing truly is the shit. So guys, once again, we've reached the end of the show. Thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, on the 3D printing side, you can still get the Necrosia Pillar Tomb, and Gore the Barbarian. So if you head across to store.ontabletop.com, there'll be links in the show notes, guys. You can go and download both those models for free. As we continue our journey as a community, working through 3D printing. Right, all that's left to say is, remember, we have the competition of this week. Comment, subscribe, give us a like, and please, if you could help us share the videos. Google, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to syndicate our videos, and a lot of people that are subscribed don't even get the notifications that they come up. So we kind of rely on you guys to help us spread the word each week that the show is up and running. And you could win one of these two gorgeous orcs. So this is the Sky Basta, and then we also have the Boom Basta. Beautiful big orc war bosses.
Chunky pieces of kit. I'd have to say the resin is absolutely stunning.
It is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. Right, guys, why not come over, join the Cult of Games, and join us on Sunday morning for XLBS. It's XL and there's BS. You will love it, believe me. Right, thank you to you guys, and most importantly, thank you to you guys. Have a great week of gaming. Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.